Everything's going electric. Look at that. A Porsche electric. Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the channel. So it's been a crazy week, this whole Dodge Speed Week. And so today we're going to have to talk about the EV Daytona SRT Charger concept. That's the biggest news right now. Everything's going electric. Look at that. A Porsche electric, Mustang.
Can we go there and check the Porsche?
It's a Taycan. A Volkswagen electric. All electric. So for better or worse, it seems like everyone's going down the electric route. I even saw Koenigsegg is coming out with an electric car that's supposed to be reasonably priced. In the world of Koenigsegg, I'm not really sure reasonable and pricing go together. All right, so this Daytona SRT Charger concept, what's it about? Well, this is the Hellcat replacement. 800 volt Banshee EV platform, that's what they're calling it. And I think Dodge has done some interesting things here to differentiate themselves from a regular EV vehicle. So regular EV vehicles right now have basically just been all about efficiency and performance efficiency. And so what I mean by that is EVs don't need a transmission. They just put their straight torque to the motor and just handle that. So a transmission is essentially just going to add up to drivetrain loss in an EV. That's completely unnecessary, like it is with a traditional gasoline engine. But Dodge decided to put what they call an erupt transmission into this Banshee concept, which is probably going to be very close to what we actually see in the final car, given that they're talking about this being a 2024 production model. Sounds like Dodge going 100% electric. The Charger, Challenger are retired. The gasoline versions of those cars are retired from next year, and we're going to be seeing all electric, and this is going to be the top dog on that platform. Now, the transmission. When Tim Koenigsegg, I think, was asked about this, why did you go with a transmission in an electric vehicle? His response was, I don't care. I know it may be not the most performant or efficient option, but it definitely is that feel of gas, the feel of performance that people have come to expect. And so that's why they decided to go with a transmission. So I actually do like that idea. That's one thing that's a little bit boring about driving an electric vehicle. I had a chance to drive a Tesla the other day. It's basically like driving a golf cart. That's essentially what it is. It's auto brakes when you get your foot off the accelerator, so you hardly have to use the brake at all. It'll actually come to a complete stop with your foot even not on the brake. With the erupt, yeah, you're gonna have to switch through gears, you're gonna have to do all of that stuff. It'll be interesting to see if they even make an option where you can just put it in regular mode and it just acts as without a transmission, or if the transmission is simulated. But I thought that was an interesting touch. The other thing they came out with, and we knew this was coming because they said it, was the fratsonic chambered exhaust, whatever they're calling these things. It's very gimmicky sounding. Now, the fratsonic chambered exhaust, essentially they're simulating this, right? So they're amplifying this noise, blowing air through the tubes, whatever it is, to simulate that engine noise. And from what I saw in the video, it seems rather effective. So it's not like the Tesla boombox feature, which I think is pointless. Tesla boombox, if you've seen, there's a guy there who made it sound like a cammed Hellcat. Basically, he's playing the sound of a cammed Hellcat at idle in the boombox. Well, the problem with that is when you're driving down the road, all you're hearing is the sound of a car at idle. You don't hear the modulation of the throttle. You don't hear all of that. That's what makes it enjoyable, the enjoyable experience. You want to hear the change in sound. You want to just hear a car idling as you're driving at like 80 miles an hour on the highway. Well, they've made that happen. So the throttle sound, the simulated sound that actually is piped through these tubes, so it's on the outside of the car, and the decibel level, something like 162 decibels, very similar to a Hellcat. So they made it so that you're basically piping this artificial noise on the outside of the car, so it sounds and feels like an actual exhaust. But the sound, it's not V8 sound. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be a V8 sound, but it's not a V8 sound. It sounds very similar to the electric cars that you see in movies. That's the best I could probably describe that sound. If you've seen, there's a movie with, who's in that movie? I think it's Justin Timberlake. It's called In Time, where it's a whole dystopian future where basically you're not paid in money, you're paid in time, and your clock starts ticking when you're 20. So if you don't earn enough time, then eventually you'll die young. The rich basically live forever because they can just keep buying time. In that movie, the time cops that make sure people don't steal time and this other type of stuff, they drive what look like old school Challengers, but electric versions. And if you hear what those cars sound like as they're driving around, it sounds very similar to this Fratsonic chambered exhaust. So I thought that was interesting. I like the touch. It's better than what's out there right now. We'll see. I think the sound is something that you're either going to hate or love, or it's going to grow on you over time. The other part that I thought was kind of interesting is they have this like power shot mode where for a very brief period of time, the car will provide a little bit more power for acceleration. So I guess that's like for drag strip racing, you get a little bit more power in a short burst. It's kind of like my son has these radio controlled cars and they have this turbo button on the top that basically just gives them a little bit more power for a short duration of time. It basically sounds like what that is, a little overdrive, provided with a little bit more voltage, get a little bit more acceleration out of it. Speaking of acceleration and drag strip racing, it's all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive definitely is going to hook up better than rear-wheel drive. So I do expect this car, if it has more power than the Hellcat and it's all-wheel drive, to be pretty dominating at the drag strip. So we'll see how that works. Plus you can be shifted to the gears. Could be interesting, could be a nice feeling. So we'll see what they do with this. There's one more bit about this car, which is this R-wing. So I thought this was a very neat idea that they did, which is the front of the car looks like an old school Charger or like the Challenger. It's very boxy, but it's hollowed out in the top. So it's essentially, you're getting a spoiler on the front of the car. And they did this because if you want to have good efficiency, good drag coefficiency, you can't have a box in the front. It can't just be a straight boxy car. But what they've done is hollowed that out and have this wing so to increase the aerodynamics. So it gets the aerodynamics of like a Tesla, maybe not a Tesla, but something like that, that's a lot more slippery through the air, but still retain the look of a muscle car. So hats off to them for that. Overall, what do I think about the car? I think it's an interesting car. Look, everyone's going electric. This was probably something that was coming sooner rather than later. My personal opinion, I don't know that we're ready for a widespread adoption of electric cars yet. I don't think the charging infrastructure is there. But better or worse, everyone's going electric. And so EPA mandates, all of this stuff, push Dodge down this direction. And Stellantis is calling the shots. They had to go down this route. There will be a rear-wheel drive or dual motor version of this platform, I suppose, very easy. It's really, if you think about it, that's also one of the other benefits here for auto manufacturers as they build these cars, is going from an all-wheel drive to a two-wheel drive, front-wheel or rear-wheel drive setup, very easy. Just take out the motors in those other two wheels. You don't have to change the whole drivetrain and all the other stuff. So we'll see some interesting stuff, right, come out with this. One of the nice things, one of the really nice things I like about this car was the affordability, right? This much power, 707 horsepower for when this car came out, about 60, unheard of. I mean, this is like, you were trying to get this much power before the Hellcat came out, and you were talking about having to go exotic, right? I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So one of the nice things about the Hellcat or muscle cars in general is that they basically democratized power, because now you could afford it. It was an affordable man's powerful car. That's going away. I can't see how this car, unless the range is like 20 miles, right? It's gonna have to have some decent range. It's gonna have to have at least 200-300 miles of range. That's a whole nother story, where basically finding places to charge your electric car, again, goes back to charging infrastructure. It's just not there yet. That's where, if we want to go electric, people need to start investing in that today. And the only company really that's doing that, I think, on such a large scale that's usable, is Tesla. None of the other manufacturers, they're basically all going off of like Electrify America or someone else's grids, where you're at the whim of those companies and their stuff is hit or miss. Doesn't necessarily have the same quality. So with this car, 200-300 mile range, all of this 800 volts, dual motors, erupt, this and that, how much you think this car's gonna cost? You think it's gonna be 60? I will be incredibly surprised if this car comes out at 60. Incredibly. I mean, you'll see my reaction video if this car comes out at 60. I don't see how this car with this performance, given everything else that's on the market, from seasoned electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla that have economies of scale and build their own batteries to be able to compete. You don't get that type of performance in a Tesla Model S until you get in the higher range of things, dual motor, all of that stuff. Those cars are 80, 90 plus. And the interior of those cars isn't exactly Mercedes quality. So you're paying for the mechanics of the car, not really so much the luxury of the car. And so I don't see how this car is going to be anything less than maybe 80, 90,000, 100,000 for this car. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Is that the same roots of a muscle car in terms of being something that, I mean, it's still expensive at 60, don't get me wrong, but still something that's somewhat affordable. I mean, $100,000 is a lot for a vehicle, right? So it's going to price a lot of people out. So then it basically becomes a play toy for people that are wealthy enough to afford them. That's where I think they will miss the mark on this next generation. But we'll see what Dodge has up its sleeve. I mean, it's still a couple of years away. I have a feeling now if the Banshee comes out, there's really no replacement for the Charger Challenger. Maybe we'll be waiting at least another year or two till a different drivetrain version comes out that's a little bit cheaper. But still, again, how much cheap will it be? Will it be $20,000 cheap like a V6? Not so sure. Anyways, what do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'm sure you guys have all been plugged into the news. I mean, this was like plastered every single day, a new article on the Dodge Charger Daytona SRT concept 2024, all of this stuff. I think they've done some interesting things here, some interesting novel things. They haven't just copied a playbook out of somewhere else and just stuck the Dodge nameplate on it. I think they have come up with some interesting things to differentiate it and make it true to their brand. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is something that you'd be interested in? Do you think it's going to be something that kind of harkens to these roots? Love to hear from you. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Check out these next videos and I'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.